Hello, lovely listeners. I'm going to start today's episode very differently because I'm feeling a little bit starstruck, actually, and my lovely guest won't really accept this because she doesn't take it when I give her lots of compliments particularly well, because she's very humble and I love her to bits, seriously love her to bits. I wanted to share a bit of a story with you today about some of my journey, and I'll try not to get emotional, as I can see Gillie's getting emotional. This is the community that you have created, Gillie. I'm joined today by my Pilates instructor, Gillie Green, and I wanted to share with you some of the background so that you can understand as a listener how important this part of my life has become for me. As you all well know, many, many years ago, I was having a really tough time. I had nursed my husband through several breakdowns. I had to jump in and try and figure out how to run a construction business. I was feeling really quite overwhelmed. At times I felt quite, perhaps not depressed, but extremely down. I'd put on a lot of weight, about 20 kilos during that period. I was feeling really stressed. There was nothing in my life that was for me. There was family complications with our children, relationship troubles. There was a bunch of stuff going on with our business. Life was pretty shit, if I'm very frank about it. And so I had probably 3 to 4 years that looked like that. They were really, really tough, really hard time for me. And I'd lost the focus on myself. Prior to that time, I was really fit, extremely healthy. I've never been a very slim person. I don't have that body shape. I'm never going to be. But I was very fit and very healthy. All of that was neglected during that really tough time. I could not find the capacity within myself to focus on myself again and make time. During that time, though, I kept observing the way that I do and had noticed Pilates, reformer Pilates. I'm specifically talking about reformer Pilates because I'm sorry for all of you that love mat Pilates, but it is not my friend. I find it really challenging. And so I'd actually given mat Pilates a go at home, and I'd started to, I guess, maybe rediscover that I can actually make time for myself. It didn't have to be about everyone else that I was supporting. And so I'd gone back and tried some various things like group training again. I'd done a lot of functional fitness through group training. I'd done CrossFit, all of the things that were popular at the time. I tried to go back to all of those, and they just didn't suit my body type anymore. And then I decided, you know what, I really want to give this reformer Pilates thing a go, which commenced with some research. Initially, I was going to do it through a physio, which is a really common part of people's journey. That's how many people start. However, I found that quite counterintuitive for me. It didn't work for me. They weren't the right people for me. And so that led me over to Gillie and her studio in Ipswich here where I live, called Pilates Shack. And you're not allowed to book in unless I've already booked all my classes for the next 6 months, because otherwise they book out really quick. And so I was quite frankly shit scared about starting Pilates. I really wanted to do it. And everything I had seen online about Pilates, I'm not talking about Gillie's channels here, I was talking just in general, about Pilates were beautiful, fit, healthy 20-year-olds that had perfect bodies and could do all of these moves in sync. And I was really terrified that maybe walking into the studio, that's what I would find. And so I decided if I was going to do this, I really needed a bunch of private classes so I could get comfortable. I made that decision. I reached out to Gillie, and she just so beautifully said that I was welcome and she would do these private classes with me. And I can still remember how sick I was at the beginning of that first class before I walked in the door. I honestly sat in the car for a good 10 minutes before starting class thinking I was going to throw up in the gutter. I was really scared. I was overweight. I'm still overweight. I was really overweight. I hadn't made myself a priority. I was struggling to be there consciously, because I was so worried about all of the other stuff that was on my plate at that time. And I walked into this studio. I was really scared there were going to be a bunch of 20-year-olds walking out of their class as I walked in. That did not happen, for reference. In fact, a lot of the ladies that I see in the mornings now were walking out of their 9:15 class as I arrived for my 10 a.m. And I just walked into this breath of fresh air who, Gillie, I make no bones about the fact you've changed my life. I love you. I love what you have created at Pilates Shack. You are the most warmest, most welcoming, accepting person I've ever met in this space. And I know that's hard stuff for you to hear because you don't give yourself enough credit. You're amazing at what you do. And this is what I wanted to share with our community of listeners was just how transformational finding the right community for you can be. So it might not be Pilates for some of the people that are listening today. And if you haven't tried it, I really encourage you to give it a crack. It's so much fun. What is the most important thing I think to take out of this podcast episode today is just how when you find that right community, you can create the change that you've been looking to create because you are well supported. And that's what you have done for me, Miss Gillie Green. I love you to bits. Thank you so much for joining me here today and pushing through some of your comfort zones. You held my hand big time way back then. Now it's my time to hold your hand. Gillie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for all your words. It's really humbling. And it was an honour and a privilege for me the day you walked into the studio. It can be very intimidating and very scary walking into a space like that because of the way things are marketed. But moving the body is the most important thing we can do. And yeah.
It really is. There's nothing more important. I've always known it, but we tend to, I think as women, this is something we do really well, is we put ourselves last on the list. And so the very last thing for me when I really needed it to be the first thing on the list was taking that time out for myself to focus on my own personal well-being. It was very last on the list. And you helped me recalibrate what my list should look like. And so much of this you don't even know. You did this just by being you, Gillie, creating an amazing space. But we've since spoken about a lot of this and in agreement just how beneficial it is for your headspace, for your physical health and well-being. And I'm not talking about necessarily losing weight or creating a particular body type or any of those things. For me, they're far less important. This is about our physical and mental well-being. That's what's most important for me today. And so I know that there's been a big journey. You've worked in so many areas of the fitness industry. You will have seen so much stuff that we've never had the opportunity to talk about. And I'd love to share what your story has looked like to get to you to this point, Gillie. Can you tell us a bit about where this started for you?
Yeah, this started for me about 16 years ago. My partner is a tradie. He was, at that time, he was a boilermaker. And he had an injury. He had an accident at work and he had a guillotine come down on his hands. And so he had quite a bit of pain surgery going on. And we've always been passionate about health and fitness. And so we decided he was off because he had to have 3 surgeries, skin grafts and all that sort of horrible stuff. And, what better time to spend when you have a concentrated 12 to 14 weeks. My son, who's 19 now, was 2 at the time. And we decided we'd find care for him. And we had 3 other children at the time as well. And so we just worked it and we went and did our studies in Cert 4 in business and Cert 3 and 4 in health and fitness. And I did a certain life coaching and unbelievably to me, my partner decided he wanted to become an aerobics instructor too at the time. Which was that. I know, most people don't. And nobody looking at shame would sort of think that. And I think that our business coach sort of encouraged us so much. And it was very hard because you know what it's like when you're sort of in your little comfort zones. And but he really sort of decided he was going to get out of his comfort zone. He wanted to do aqua aerobics to help people with other injuries, like similar to his and things like that. So just the physical therapy to get back to working the body properly. So that's where we started our journey. And 12 weeks later, we were qualified in health and fitness to work as personal trainers or work in gyms. And it sort of went from there. But in between that time, I then fell pregnant with Lucy, who when he turned 6, Lucy was born. My oldest was 18 at the time. And so big changes. And I ended up with gestational diabetes being like nearly 40.
Yeah.
And with my last child. So I ended up with gestational diabetes and gained an awful lot of weight. And at the end of that, when Lucy was born, I was 127.5 kilos.
Wow.
And I It was a rough pregnancy. There was nothing nice about that pregnancy. That's probably why she's such a gorgeous child now. Although nearly 13, things have probably changed. And so it was a long road back, and my health really suffered. And carrying all that extra weight when you are not used to carrying that much weight, and at the time Shane had started working FIFO as well, so I was pretty much sort of 4 children and a baby, and it was a lot of work. And so I found a gym, and when the other 4 were at school, I put Lucy in the creche, and my saving grace was Pilates. Yeah. And I know you're going to be disgusted, but it was mat Pilates because Reformer wasn't a thing back then. But if there hadn't been Reformer, it probably wouldn't have been Reformer. And my instructor was amazing. She was just brilliant. And I used to go there 2 to 3 times a week, and I would do that and cycle and walk. And that's what I did. And I lost 50 kilos doing that.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, that sort of, and Pilates, basically, when you're carrying that weight, when you don't have time to give to yourself mentally and physically, your body hurts.
Yes.
You can't think properly. You become overwhelmed with the smallest thing. Life is hard, especially when you're juggling a partner and their work and your work and kids.
Yeah.
So, Pilates was my saving grace. And I went on to work as a personal trainer, and then I was working on a front desk at a yoga studio, and they got some reformers in, which I had never seen before. And so I suddenly became addicted. And at that time, it was so expensive because it was such an isolated thing, and nobody had reformers. And so I used to work the front desk so that I could, when the yoga class was on, sneak into the reformer room and do a quick set. So, and I just, because it was that, or decide which one of my children wasn't going to eat that night. So I could afford my reformer classes. So, which is why we've made our studio the way we've made our studio. It made such an impact in my life that we wanted to be able to provide that for other people, because even more so than the physical side of it, that just happens. That happens. Your body feels stronger. You have muscles you didn't know you had, but it's more the mental side of it. It's more the balance it gives your brain. It helps release good hormones into your system, which help calm you. You work from a place of calm rather than a place from adrenaline.
Yeah,
so
really.
That's basically why we've gone ahead with the studio. I was working 3 to 4 different jobs, and my partner just said, you know what, you need to just be working for yourself rather than running around 4 different gyms and studios to teach.
Yeah.
And because I couldn't fit in the people that were coming to me, they were telling their friends, and then their friends wanted to come, and I had 2 reformers at home as well as working in these other places. So it was, no, let's just do this for us, for our community. Let's build a community where people can come in. And people of all different stories, all different backgrounds, and everyone's got a journey, and it's just nice to have a place where you can go and feel comfortable and change your life, basically. It's changed my life.
Yes, me too, as you know. And you've done an exceptional job of that. So much so you and I have had some challenging conversations about your pricing structure because you were so goddamn cheap. And that's something that you are really deeply passionate about, is creating that space for all people. And I think it's important to note that it's not a women's only thing. This is for men as well. I've got clients that do reformer Pilates as well. The tradies, because they've got back injuries and things, that's how they've started, and they're now doing it, 3 to 4 times a week. It's such a great inclusive environment that you've created because of your passion, Gillie. And I wanted to talk to that today because gyms can be a little bit cliquey and a little uncomfortable. And I've been to other group classes, etc., that I just really never fitted with. And I wanted to get your perspective perhaps on having the confidence to bow out of those situations instead of pushing yourself to keep going. I think it's important for us all to understand. And, at my age, mid-40s, you kind of reach that stage where I don't give a shit anymore. I'm quite okay to stand up and say, hey, this isn't going to work for me. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to find a different class. But it wasn't always that way. There was a lot of time for me where I just shrunk away in the corner because it didn't feel comfortable, but I felt like I'd made a commitment and couldn't get out. I think it's important to talk about, the benefits, not only for you as a person to say this isn't a good fit for me, I'm going to keep going until I find the right community, but also for the other classmates and even the instructor. There must be, I can imagine from your position, you'd have it reflected back to you if it's not the right space for someone. And whilst it's not your job to say, hey, maybe this isn't right for you, it would be certainly better or more comfortable for you, surely, if people were able to self-select out and say, hey, I'm going to move on and try something different. Is that in fact true?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I thoroughly agree with that. And also coming from working in gyms and having been someone that went to gyms long before I worked in gyms, it was very hard to find a gym environment where gyms are all inclusive.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to other members, and just a whole environment is bred from that. And absolutely, because if you're not comfortable where you're going, you're not going to get the benefits of it. Never mind the fact that you're not going to be able to be authentically yourself. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you're not going to work as hard, or you're not going to push yourself as hard. I've had instructors screaming at me too, and I've actually had tantrums, thrown my boxing gloves down and gone, I'm done and out of here.
Yeah, no.
Because it's like, no, you can't, I'm not going to be yelled at. We're not here to be, I would have gone to a yelling class if I wanted to be yelled at. I would go to a class where I know that's what's going to happen. And I understand also as an instructor, I can understand that frustration, and sometimes those things happen, but it just comes down to a whole environment, and you need to, if you're not comfortable where you are, then mentally, and I think mentally more than physically, I feel that far outweighs any benefits you will get physically. Because if you're not going to get those physical benefits that you're looking for when you are not mentally comfortable somewhere. So I actually believe that far outweighs the physical.
Yep, I totally agree with you, Gillie. I also, so one of the things that could be tempting to believe, and perhaps I had a bit of this belief myself before I started, was you have to be super fit to be able to do Pilates because it looks so darn hard. And that's so far away from the truth, because there is layer upon layer upon layer that could be put on it. And I'm going to throw my kids under the bus here. My clients know that every year I bring my kids, this is their torture. They're pretty cool. They come with me to a Pilates class for Mother's Day every year, and my kids are super fit. So my daughter regularly, in fact, I think 6 days a week, she's at gym lifting weights and really taking care of her body and her mental health. Both my boys are football players. One's a tradie as well. The other one swims at the beach every single day. Like they're very fit, healthy kids until they get on a reformer and everything changes. And actually, there's fantastic videos over on Instagram of a huge weightlifter, competition weightlifter, who also does Pilates as a demonstration that, physical strength doesn't mean that you can do Pilates and do it well. Lots of footballers now do it as well. But I also want to also dispel then that you don't need any particular skill or fitness at all. I had an exercise for a long time before I came along to Pilates. And apart from the fact I really wanted to vomit by the time I was finished my first class.
I didn't remember that.
Yes, it was dreadful. I didn't think I was going to get to the car. But I didn't need any skills. It's quite a simple exercise. Well, it starts simple but builds up to something really quite complex. Can we talk about what those physical needs? We don't need anything, right? When you agree?
No, Pilates, and that's 100%, and that's why Pilates is for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. No, Pilates is absolutely for everybody, and that's the biggest misconception that I get all the time. When you're out and someone goes, "Oh, what do you do?" and you go, "I'm a Pilates instructor," and they go, oh, that stretching stuff, I've got to, I want to do that, but I'm not flexible enough. It's like, you don't need to be flexible. It's nothing to do with that at all.
No.
It's, and Pilates, I swear, and that's why I always use the analogy. It's like an onion. It has layers. There's just layers and layers, and you can start out with the simplest of things, and when you've never done it before, it feels challenging.
Oh, yeah.
But then before you know it, you're doing flying lunges, chin-ups, and all of those things that you never, ever thought you would be able to do. And that's, we have a lot of people that come through that are recovering from injuries and that have other things going on in their lives, and they never thought they'd be able to exercise again. And all of a sudden they're in a jackknife position going, oh my God, I'm an athlete, and yeah, no, no, you don't need any skills. They just grow with you as you grow.
Yeah, they really do. I think that's a fantastic statement and so important. And the machines can look really scary, but they're actually quite gentle. The structure of the machine, I feel, supports you in that growth. So it will meet you wherever you're at, even if you've never done any kind of physical activity external from your normal daily life before. It will meet you where you're at. And if you are like my kids and super fit, super healthy, super buff, it's going to challenge you just as much as it does if you're a first timer who's never done anything before. It's a very supportive form of exercise. I've never hurt myself doing Pilates, and every other type of exercise I've tried, I've managed to injure myself every time. This is that one form of exercise that really conforms to not only where I'm at, but to my body, full stop. So it doesn't overextend me. It doesn't push me to a point where I am injured or I open myself up for an injury at a later time. Instead, it supports me all the way through that. It's almost... I love that Shane used to do the aqua aerobics thing, because I feel Pilates is really similar in the way the reformer really supports your body. It's an incredible piece of machinery.
That's right. And then when things are a little challenging, just have a little rest.
Yeah, I do lots of
while you're resting.
I do lots of resting.
Yeah.
Gillie, what are some of the things that you have seen in terms of growth with your clients that have got nothing to do with the physical benefits of exercise? So obviously you're privy to lots of the stories behind the scenes. You would see some dramatic shifts in people as they sort of start to get comfortable and work with you.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence in themselves. Confidence that their bodies will support them. I hear people say, and it's things that even myself, and that's what I mean, it's humbling all the time, because we don't realize how much we do take for granted.
Yes.
And sometimes I forget, I'm like, I'm 51 and I don't have any injuries. I don't have a bad back. I don't have got a little bit going on with my foot there, but that was from trying to run when I should have not been doing much. I should have built up to it, not what I could just do. And but other than that, I feel that I actually take myself for granted at times as well. And then when someone comes through the studio, I had a lady, she's been coming for just over a year, and she was so excited. And she pulled me aside at the end of class. This was actually last Friday, I think. And she was like, that was the first time we did flying lunges. As she said, that was the first time ever that when we did lunges, I didn't need to use the bar.
Wow.
And to support myself.
Yeah.
And she said that was the first time she'd actually come right into a flying lunge position. And she felt so good about that. And like that changed her whole day, pretty much. She was just excited in the sense that she had achieved something that she didn't think she could do or ever would be able to do. And it's things like that, little things like when people say, oh, it was just playing with the kids and didn't think about it, and I ran down a set of stairs.
Yeah.
And it was like before I would have to put my hand on and my knee would hurt, and just little things like that. And then you don't realize how things like that don't sound important to someone that's not feeling it, but little things like that change the bigger things in your life, because then your body, we don't even realize these things are happening, but it's the confidence that we have within ourselves that our body will support us and our body will carry us. And it just leads down to things like, I've had other people that have said, I haven't been able to sit on my heels, like sit on my knees and sit my backside back to my heels for years. And I'm not talking older people. I'm talking people in their 30s to 50s.
Yeah.
It's just things that we don't realize that impact on our lives and slow us down in other areas.
Absolutely.
And when you're feeling good, then other things become easier too, and you have more confidence and you put yourself forward for more and you'll try more things. And yeah, it's just, I find I can get down on the floor with my granddaughter and I can play with her and don't even think about it. Whereas I think when I was back in my mid-20s with my 3 older children and they were just little, it was like, oh my God, my knees hurt so much. I don't want to play Barbies. Things like that just things we don't take for granted, that we don't realize how lucky we are. We take it for granted.
Totally. That confidence point, I love. So my favorite time, as you know, I'm an early bird. There's a great Pilates meme at the moment on Instagram about the different Pilates personalities. I'm the early bird. I do like my same reformer, and I don't mind it when somebody gets there and beats me to it and I get to mix it up a bit. But what I really enjoy about your space is watching how people transform when they come into class. Typically, like me, they're quite nervous on their first couple of times, and then very quickly they become involved in the conversations. They're physically more open to those conversations. They're not feeling scared. We tend to sort of shut ourselves in when we're feeling frightened. So their body language changes, the conversations change, the eye contact changes. It's my favorite thing to observe before class because, of course, I'm generally halfway through class and I don't get to notice that everybody's improving with their physicality. But I do love the way it creates that confidence, as you rightly point out, in people. I want to talk about confidence because of late I'm seeing huge shifts in your instructors. So you're not the only person that instructs there. You're blessed with your gorgeous boy who's joined you, and you have some fantastic other instructors, one of which is a good friend of mine. I love also watching their journey and how their confidence has grown. And again, this comes back to you, Gillie. You are 100% responsible for their journeys and how they are growing and shifting and changing within their journeys. So I guess this is a bit of a business lesson. Is it something that you have mindfully created for them, or something that you think has grown as you all spend more time together?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't know. I don't even see. I get so they inspire me. They really inspire me, and I'm so proud of them and how much they have grown from just confidence-wise. And I think it comes down to just it's something they love.
Yes.
And because they love it, they will grow and they will succeed with it. And the more that they get to, I don't know, that confidence thing, the more they get to learn about who they are and I guess what Pilates has done for them as well. And Kinnan's only young, but he's grown up with it. So he's seen differences through the dynamic over the years and through other people that come through your life as well.
Yes.
I don't know. I sort of feel that I forget sometimes that it's my studio and I just sort of feel I go to work there and I just want everyone to succeed. I want everyone to feel good about themselves. I want the instructors that work in the studio to feel good about themselves. I want them to feel like they're achieving in life as well. I don't know. It's just important to me that they feel like they're growing. Because if we're not growing, then everyone that comes to the studio isn't going to grow either. So, and I just want that environment where everyone's having their needs met in different ways.
Yeah.
and we're all growing together and we're all learning. And the conversation thing, like you were saying, it is, I love watching people that do come in, and Teeny calls it the nervous first timers. He said sometimes it takes them a while. He said, and he said sometimes he's very perceptive, and he'll be like people that come in, and he says that it's just an awkwardness because he teaches all the beginner classes, and so that would be very daunting, which is why I'm glad he does that, because he handles that really well.
Yeah.
When you've got 12 people staring at you that are all terrified and all nervous and all not sure of what they're actually going to be doing.
Yeah.
And the thought of doing crunches and squat and things like that can be a little intimidating, which is why I love the machine, because like you said before, the machine supports you through.
Yeah, it really does. Gillie, you never take enough credit for yourself. You're incredible at creating that environment, not just for us lying on the reformers. Your instructors are doing amazing things, and their growth and personal development, yes, of course, they're responsible for some section of it, but it's totally the environment that you've created so that they can feel free to really take ownership of what they are doing. You've created that. That isn't something that's happened. Whether you're mindful of how you did it or not, you have 100% created it. And I reckon everybody listening to this has just clicked over, oh, that's why Nicole loves Gillie so much. It's what you do. It is what you do to create that comfort for others. First and foremost for you is most important, and I see you do it every single time. And that then, of course, creates comfort for the others that come. So with Keen's doing the beginner classes, he is so good at that because of what you have taught him and how you have empowered him to step into his own self to become a fantastic instructor. Likewise for all of your instructors whose names I didn't ask permission for to say, so I won't. I did. He was in the background before, so he's dropped himself in. So I love that some of us are just natural leaders, Gillie. That's the point I'd really like to leave you with today, because I'd like you to take something out of today. You are a natural leader, and you do it, I think, without awareness. You lead all of the people in your class to have a fantastic time, to enjoy themselves while they're working really, really hard, to grow in confidence, to have a beautiful space that we can all come to that's judgment-free, where we all feel super comfortable. We can have a laugh. Gosh, we've even had some tears in the time as well, which comes with moving your body. Unfortunately, sometimes they come. Whether it be because it's triggered some emotional thing that's been happening for you, or it be that it just darn hurts at times, because yes, it does. But you've also created that beautiful comfort and environment for your team so that they can grow within their journeys as well. And you're responsible for all of it through being a fantastic leader. I had to get you on the podcast to be able to say this, because you can't walk away or tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, because I would just mute you.
Yeah, I'm like, oh.
I think it's a great opportunity for our listeners to understand that many of them are leading the people around them subconsciously. They don't understand that they're doing it. But if you for a moment can look around, listeners, and see your own environment, and you've got a bunch of people that you really enjoy their company, and they're looking to spend time with you. So team, whether it be team or friends or family, you're a leader. That only happens because you're leading and creating that space. And it's important for us as women to understand our leadership opportunities and lean into those where we can, something that Gillie does incredibly well and very humbly. Gillie, I hope that everybody listening to this runs out. They're not allowed to come to Pilates Shack because we're too busy already. Well, then maybe they can, just not to my 6:15 class because we don't all fit. But I hope everybody wants to go out and try Reformer Pilates now. It really is life-changing for, dare I say, everybody that really throws themselves into it. I'm going to make sure that all of your socials are in our show notes, but can you tell everyone where they could find you if they're interested, if they're a local and they'd like to find out more about your particular studio?
Absolutely. We're down on Blackstone Road, 71 Blackstone Road, opposite Silkstone Shop there. And more than happy to welcome anyone that wants to come along and have a go. Just don't ever be afraid. And if you're somewhere else, go and find a nice studio. And even if, like, in saying that, coming to us, if it doesn't feel like you're right, don't be put off. Always try somewhere else, because believe me, Pilates will change your life. You have one right.
Yes, you do. That's an important lesson. Thank you, Gillie, for letting me drag you over the coals today and have a chat, make you do something you didn't want to do.
Yeah, that's all right. Friday will be good for you.
Oh dear. Listeners, all of Gillie's links will be in the show notes. You have to check out her Instagram. A couple of the instructors are doing some really cool stuff that is very interesting to see. They're having a lot of fun. Gillie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Appreciate you.
Thank you. We too.